Well, as of now, I would say that rock is and has been dead for a long time. This was no shocker to me, but I thought that I was playing music for recent legacy, but like I wasn't so aware that like rock is actually that small as a thing in general. The weird thing is that you just don't see any young people play. Besides cover bands and tone chasers and faithful recreations and stuff, there isn't any like organic rock communities outside that are actually playing that much like in their young years and stuff. Like that stuff's just has steadily died since like 20 like 2011. It's been just declining even now. Like it's during COVID it declined even more. And like I didn't realize that it was that small. So, according to this like sort of TikTok which I watched here, like probably not much, but like rock was popular in the 70s. It was exploding. That's why, because like every sort of boomer you're seeing plays the greats like Hendrix, Janis Joplin, all these people, with their records and their hi-fi setup cranked to almost 10 whenever they go out drinking and stuff. It's the sort of that great rock era. Capturing the 70s, capturing the 60s, and kind of the 80s in a while. But after 1990, rock has been steadily declining. It has been overtaken by pop, hip hop, electronic raves were a thing. I didn't realize that rock was that dead. Actually, it's kind of like a very very closed invitation, kind of very close like communities. It's very tight knit. Actually, in reality, there aren't that many people to choose from. If you try to think of people outside the people that you can think on top of your head in your local county, there's even probably smaller chance that you will ever find anybody that actually has like a sort of a music career going on, and that's sort of the weird thing. Because I'm kind of a rocker. I'm a not much of a metalhead, but I do play it sometimes. But I'm much more of a guy that can play rock. I can play a lot of different genres, but I never actually finish my songs. I have like a lot of ideas on my top of the heads, but I never get down to finish them because of the technology is so overwhelming, and the recording techniques and stuff. Like you can't just put in an interface, record your guitar part, record your bass part, and then the drums, and then you just add vocals, and then you just release it. No, you have to mix it, EQ it, and that's a whole different thing, which is going to take weeks, and nobody really has time for that, and nobody has the patience for that, for one song or an EP. But it says here that rock is only making up 4% of the popular music nowadays, while I think it's hip hop, rap, electronic, and pop music is basically the thing nowadays. And country is rock and country are kind of in the same thing, but country is actually like more popular, I would say. And it wasn't big of a shocker to me, but like seeing that things and dance and stuff, like I just never thought it was that bad. I thought like, because my dad was a rocker, but he stopped playing, actively. He only shows up maybe 3 times a year in venues. He plays on some acoustic shows, but that wouldn't sustain anything that if that was like 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But like you gotta remember, 10 years ago was in 2015 actually, and it's not longer 2010. That was 15 years ago, and like 30 years ago was like in 2005. So it's kind of crazy to get that time perspective now, honestly. But like I play with guitar stuff. It's a very niche thing, technically. nobody actually dedicates their entire like existence or their entire lives to this sort of stuff. It's sort of a performist and a perfectionist type hobby, and I have my Y2K DC shirt. I literally don't. I'm so cheap. I'm frugal. When it comes to clothing, I still wear the same stuff that I've been wearing since 2010 and stuff. I still have my actual Rick and Morty Szechuan shirt. Let me see if I can get it. I did not find anything that was like resembling a Rick and Morty Szechuan shirt from 2016. It was sadly not present. Couldn't find it. Searched the entire place where last time I saw it, it wasn't there. But I actually found my old Russ. What's it called? The Norwegian Russ. Yeah, it's this stupid fucking tradition we have when we graduate. I was so poor back in the days. I spent too much money on coffee, but I was essentially broke as a kid. When I was back in high school, like I got like an allowance of maybe $30 every month. It was like super outdated arithmetics, like strict parenting. Like when it came to money and stuff, like you couldn't get a single fucking cent, and like at that time, that money, like that was only energy drinks. Like that was not enough money to save up, even if I tried. So you had to basically have like, but like I used my brother's old pants, and he's shorter and skinnier than me. Still is vegan and stuff. So that was his sort of pants, and I used to wear it like maybe 5 times because I'm way too taller and not as skinny. Instead, I even went down weight, and it's still his old pants. I couldn't afford mine because the problem is back then, those pants, the Russ pants, they cost you so much money. Like nowadays, like for you, it's insane. They're designed for rich kids. Like my last situation wouldn't be allowed or almost legal today. Back then, like I swear to God, like I would be able to afford it. Some people made it themselves, but like it was like expected of you to have these expensive. Like back then, they were cheap. You could get them for like affordable prices because they knew there are people who were broke as crap. They weren't like able to get that sort of money. But now it's like expected of you to have that sort of stuff. Like it's actually crazy. Some people actually save up for it, and I actually found one of my old pants when I was long-haired, short. I had short hair, long hair, and I wore always chinos with weird colors. And this is actually one of the rare examples that didn't get tossed away in the trash because it was an ugly teal. So that's why it survived the storm of the Wish.com throwaway or whatever. Like people have these like sort of once every 5 years they're like, yeah, let's throw away all of our old clothing, let's reinvent ourselves and all this bullshit. But actually this is the like, because it was in teal, I thought it was ugly, so I shelved it after like 2 months, and then I gained some weight, but I was like, I essentially never wore it because it was in teal, and that's considered ugly. Every kid who lives in this place, they're so, back in the days, even back then, like in the 2020s, like early 2020s, everyone wore these stupid black bubble jackets and blue denim and white Nike Air Force One. They had absolutely no personality. It was like actual, like, what's it called? Group thinking. And they were like, everyone had to have an iPhone, everyone had to have those white AirPods, and I couldn't afford any of that. Like, even if I tried, I was like always a Samsung, like a very like, what was it called, lower middle class maybe, or a higher lower class. I wore the same clothing as I used to. Like I wore like H&M like until they were like in, but I still wear them. Like I still wear them today. Like my old clothing when I was young. This is actually one of those pants that survived too. because I usually would just inherit a bunch of stuff. Like this is something you just don't see in the day. Like people just inheriting their old stuff, and this is actually one of those. But somehow it just got tucked in the. We have like these corner rooms where like in like these old fashioned houses like these, like they have like corners of the house that are just completely like when there's like an entry level or way and there's just a building that needs to be cut off because then it will just be an insanely long gap, and that was made into like a storage facility for all this old clothing and stuff. And I actually found some of my old clothing, but I'm not sure, but like at this point, I'll wear anything. At this point, I just don't care about the social. Okay, that was a completely different subject. I was going to get my Szechuan T-shirt, but I didn't find it. But I still have my old Dickens, And this was actually one of my first videos on my Samsung. I actually recorded with this T-shirt, and it's still going strong. You don't need to essentially wear whatever that's popular nowadays, like grow a stupid mustache and the mullet and stuff. Like that's where I see what the music community is. They're all the same group thinking. Like are they genuinely stressed out because they can't be themselves anymore? I think so. Like in general, like it is like the thing of fitting in. Like I just want to fit in, like Bateman. But with music, there was like this metal resurgence. Metal is kinda dead, not really, but it's like what I see honestly, personally, with metal communities and such. I don't see a lot of authenticness. It's always like it's almost like they're direct, like they're cover bands, but they think they can go their own style, but they only listen to Megadeth or Black Sabbath. And once you listen to these sort of bands, I've done the same thing. They're not original at all. Once I completely consume myself in like Slowdive, Div, a lot of these like shoegaze bands and these. Like once I just like did a complete discovery deep dive and just like listen to everything front to back, which I do like from the earliest recordings till now. That's how I do things, by the way. That's how I listen to bands. I just don't go. I either go by their most popular song, if they're like this super private band, here's our music, listen to it, but we're not going to drip feed any early content. The same with Green Day. I went with 39 Smooth and up until now, and that's a kind of a weird experience, but it's actually worth it. It's like watching a long movie, honestly, in my opinion. You should do that with any sort of music and band you're discovering. And with metal nowadays, I just see people, and with like all this music, they're just copying little snippets of riffs, and they think they can sneak them in, and do it their own style. But it just ends up being the same orchestral, sort of situation where it's the same music. The 2020s and the search for authenticity is the kind of the weird things, because I purposely didn't consume myself in different music, because I just didn't want to be that person that has way too much music listening, but like will just copy whatever is popular and catchy. I think that same recipe will work with me, but it's already been done. That's the problem, But I keep recording myself every day and playing music and stuff, and I find that quite I don't care anymore. Like I won't be approached in public and threatened to delete all my videos. Like that's actually happened. Like people laughed at me when I was a kid and told me, like in return my brothers came up to my room, and there was one hotel night where I was threatened to just delete every video. That happened once. Like they took my phone, or like they basically gave me ultimatums. Like in Europe they're like notorious for that. So like I got the ultimatum, just delete every single video, because it was cringe at the time. It was 2017. I had long hair. Now I found out that I did actually have, in fact, autism, but not at that time. I was just a weird, quirky kid. But like, yeah. But I love music. I play music every day, while most people would have given up by week one and pursued some different chasing chasing attention. It's like, but like I don't find guitar like the reason why is because I think personally that guitar is, and that sort of that feeling that you don't go tired of it is inherently just genetic. Um, I've always had a guitar since I was an early kid. I had a guitar when I was like 9, 13, and I can't sing for absolutely no. I can't do two things at the same time. That's what most people told me, and I have to like hyper focus on one thing, and that's mostly guitar. But occasionally you see me play, an intro while singing or something. But it is difficult to sing and play, so I never got that. I never get that finished. But I've played basically since I was a kid. I only picked up guitar back in 2023 when I was 18. Stupid TikTok, go away. TikTok. Yeah. Anyways, I ended up just purchasing this guitar. Stock. It was only after recently that I started modding the pickups, and I found it like I didn't like it, but I've just grown into it. It's my first guitar. It has the industry standard pickups and pots. Seymour Duncan JB and a 500k pots. So it actually will definitely crush some airs. On 10. And it's actually pretty decent. I like it a lot. But the paint is not family friendly. I was always like, should I sand down the paint to give it a John Lennon type vibe? But that's up for the people to decide, because like mostly people don't want to be. It's like it's not going to be. It's not family friendly. Let's say it's not really that. Professional. So I always wanted to sand this thing down and just get a different finish. But keep the front and the maybe change the tuners or whatever to some locking tuners in silver, and keep the neck as it is. But there is nobody in my country sort of like having that service. You have to basically find some real guitar nerds, and those are very very niche. And you have to have connections, or you have to bring out your wallet, as they say, But I love this thing to death. I don't play it on that much, but I still do. And ever since then, I've kept I've kept a drive to play and record weekly, almost daily, and then it became a daily thing. I probably did, like I didn't climb Mount Everest or Mount Fuji or anything, but I still do this every day. It's just something I like to do. Because like I back when I was younger, I had this. I didn't have an amp at the time. I had this stupid Piggy amp, and it was. It's still there in the shed, but I haven't been able to play on it that much because it's an '80s ultra cheap amp. Back in those catalog amps. They are basically non-existent nowadays, but they're from Japan. Those old practice amps back then were terrible. Like your Blackstar now you would give a kid from the '60s a literal seizure if you gave him that amp nowadays. I swear to God, you would give him a literal seizure. If you gave like a kid from the '60s or the '50s one of those amps. That's how insane it is. Let me take a look. Yeah, I had the Fender Vibrochamp, and I played on it after, in June 2020, and I would just pick up my voice recorder from my Samsung phone because you had a free app installed. And I would just pick this up and record, and it will just press record because it's easier just to do it now, because it's not don't mic it up and put it to the computer, and I just did it like that, pressed on, and then started playing and doing all the stuff. That it's terrible, when it began. It's terrible now, but I don't do it like that today. I essentially just record myself and upload it to YouTube immediately when I have just a catchy riff in my head and I need to play it, and then I essentially and then I started with that Morgan. Then I lost my hearing, and like emotionally, like the feel is dead in my right ear, but it's still, I can hear it pinch perfectly and stuff. It's fine in the autographs, but it's a little bit dead. But I struggle with tinnitus and stuff because of it. So like I couldn't give up at that point because now I'm already disabled, so I need to find at least a passion. So I didn't. I almost played every day. I played every 3 days. I think I did it every 3 days. After I came back from my car detailing job, I worked as a car detailer for almost 8 months or 7 months sharp, and every single fucking penny I made there, with the program, every single penny I spent it, almost everything on guitars and energy drinks and stuff, and I never gave up. I got bullied eventually, like by other people, but like I learned to not give a shit. Honestly, when I cranked my amp on 10, they'll shut up eventually. But that's never. I never did that, but because that, like, I've actually tried to do that, to just run to my amp and turn it off. But yeah, I do it with protection now. Because I would just find a corner where I wouldn't stand by the amplifier back then. I would just, you go 10 feet from the amplifier and put on this thing, right next to the amp, and that would be a really good sort of miking. And it actually did work. It sounded pretty clean. David Gilmour does the same thing, just records daily sounds and stuff with his phone. That's where I think I got the advice from, because he just started recording everything, and then I learned, like, maybe I should just do the same thing. And I think, or that was a recent interview, I don't know, but I had that sort of ambition to do it like that, because I could afford to like get an interface and record professionally like that. I recorded every practice, because I like I saw people that like these bands that end up being lost media, or these artists that are just lost media in general. They don't have any recordings from the earlier days, or they have no recordings, even like besides the official recordings. There's like nothing out of it. So I just made it as sort of a goal to record myself, but like I never really climbed up anywhere socially, musically speaking. But I still play every day, and that's really cool. There's yeah, I bought a lot of pedals, but I found out pedals are either it's cool, but like you have to orchestrate the pedals essentially, and that is difficult. Like getting the pedals to be connected differently, that is a really difficult thing. I started originally out on the bass. My dad, I think, or my mom bought me an Ibanez Sound Geo bass, which I still have. I almost sold it off actually, because I do actually have those times of pity and despair, and I'm not a good musician. I'm not a good musician, and then I end up putting all my guitar stuff on sale, even though I record myself every day and stuff. I end up like sometimes wanting to sell everything and just like quit, and that happens like every 6 months. But I don't have anything to do otherwise from that, besides like night driving or taking daily walks and stuff. It's generally that boring. Like I've watched films and stuff. I don't find that really entertaining. It's only music and guitar playing and stuff that really rocks my boat. And this is the first thing I ever bought. I played on this thing and on that guitar afterwards, and I find it just really cool. I like it a lot. And now I have a Fender. I have modded Squires. I've learned that more modded Squires are superior to anything else. So that's cool. Yeah. So I'll play a little bit of a jingle, and then close off the video, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't find my Szechuan Sauce T-shirt, the red one, because there's a lot of these bootlegs and stuff. But now you know. That was from 2018, I think. I had long hair. I had long hair. I'm the same dude. People think I'm actually not the same guy. Oh, this thing is recording. What the fuck? Yeah, I forget to turn off the recorder. Yeah, but let me see. I think on my old, I think I have an old photo of myself when I was younger. Yeah, hair's no. I was a very weird kid. I still am, but I'm fairly stupid. But at least I know I'm stupid now. But yeah, I was I think I was genuinely like funny, but yeah, hair. I don't think you can see because of the lighting. Yeah, I had long hair. This is on my it's on my TikTok, but yeah. That is me. I'm growing out my hair now after I had like 4 faces, and I cut my hair short in all of them because I don't know how to talk to the barber, and they always convince me you look great on short hair, and then I cut it, and then I start looking like an actual like, oh my god, I just don't look good with short hair. I look like one of those like ugly soldiers in like a movie or something. I look so bad. With long hair, I actually do look attractive. It's just takes a long time. Now, I'll put this thing. It's a welded microphone. It's super rare. I just don't buy Shure. This thing does the job, and I get tons of likes on it. Why would I go with Shure anyways? Let me see. The power's off. Anyways, we're going to play some post-punk or whatever. Whatever it's called. Using a jazz free pick, and yeah, I'll just keep recording, and I'll just switch the interfaces. Let me see. It's what the? Oh yeah. Okay. But yeah, this is it. Okay.